Welcome to Cooking at Nanook Lodge, and this week's episode and lesson is all about Carron on the road. This is from Strasbourg, France. Several years ago, our nephew Ben was studying in France, and so Shelly and I took a couple weeks and we went over there and visited him. And we went to Paris, and he was down in Antibes, which is the south coast of France, and we spent a few days in Lyon and went to a day in Geneva, Switzerland. But one of the most memorable places was Strasbourg, France. Strasbourg is a place that's very close to the German border. It's very Germanic looking. And in fact, in its history, it's been German and French and German and French and German and French as early as its history, but as late now as the end of World War II. It became French again. So the food there is very filled with pork. You can see sausages and sauerkraut here. And we're going to recreate a dish today that we had while we at dinner in one of the restaurants there. Lots of sauerkraut, lots of pork and sausages, bacon and onions. Nothing like you think of rich, creamy, heavy French food. So join me today as we visit Strasbourg and create sausages and sauerkraut. Let's talk about the ingredients for this humble French dish that feels much more German than French to me. Anyway, start with the sausage. That's the most important piece. There's this great market in North Portland called Gartner's Meat Market, and it's this big German market, but they're a butcher too. You can buy beautiful steaks and ground beef and all sorts of stuff, but they do a wonderful job with sausages. So I stopped at Gartner's and I picked these up. I've got just some German bratwursts. They're already cooked. I've got a Polish kielbasa ring, and then I've got some knockwurst, which are a northern German sausage that have a little bit of garlic in them, a little bit different. We're gonna use all three of those, but you really can use whatever sausage you can find at the store that is sort of German, Polish in origin. You probably don't wanna put Italian sausage in here, but you could if you wanted. We're gonna add bacon, make it a little even more porky, some sauteed onion, and then I've got the sauerkraut. We're gonna deglaze that all with a little bit of white wine for a little bit of punch and acidity, and then our seasonings are simply my favorite, Penzeys caraway seeds, some salt and some pepper. And then we're gonna put it all together, we'll bake it in the oven, and then it's all yours to eat. Here we've got everything prepped and ready to go for the dish. I julienne the onion. I took the Polish sausage ring and I cut it into just chunks so that it was easier to just grab a chunk when you're done. The bacon has been cut into lardons, which is long, skinny strips of the bacon, and lardon is a French word, I guess. Salt and pepper, a little caraway here, white wine's measured. You'll notice I haven't drained the sauerkraut. We don't want to do that. We just want to put it in the pan because all that sauerkraut juice will evaporate a little bit in the oven, and we want it to make sure that we keep it nice and moist in there so that none of this dries out. So we're not going to drain the sauerkraut for this dish. So let's go to the stove. Okay, you can see that the bacon has started to give up some of its fat and the onions are starting to get nice and soft. This is the perfect time to add the white wine to deglaze it, and then we'll add the sauerkraut and the seasonings, and we'll get it all ready for the oven. We do not need to drain any of the fat from this. We want that bacon fat to coat the sauerkraut and give it all that porky goodness all over the whole dish. Okay, we want this to just simmer for just a few minutes, just to get all those flavors cooking through. It looks really sloppy and wet, and we'll want to reduce that just a little bit before we put it all in the pan. We've got all our sauerkraut yumminess over here. We're going to pour it into this pan, and then we're going to put the sausages on the top. Layer the sausages in there, however they fit in the pan, however you want to have them. Kind of just do this. There we go. All the sausages in the pan, And now we're going to cover it with foil and we'll put it in the oven. You can see it still looks a little liquidy, but we're going to put it in the oven for about 20 minutes, let everything start to get nice and hot, and then we're going to take the foil off and let the sausages brown up a little bit. And when that foil comes off, it'll take about 10 or 15 minutes for the sausages to get brown, and then that liquid will start to evaporate. So that's why it's important we want to keep the moisture in there for now. It'll also help steam the sausages and get them nice and warm all the way through. You can see how the sausages are getting nice and brown. We're gonna let them go for another 5 minutes or so. I've taken the sausages off the top and piled them here. You can see that a lot of the liquid has been reduced. But at this point, we're gonna just take a slotted spoon and put the sauerkraut on the plate. We'll put the sausages on the top of that, and we'll be ready to serve. Thanks for joining me on this journey to Strasbourg, France. This meal inspired by our visit there several years ago. Something they did, but I chose not to, is if you want some starch with it, they serve it with some boiled potatoes. I just didn't want to do that. I just wanted sausages and sauerkraut. But it's wonderful. It's a yummy plate of porky deliciousness. Thanks for tuning in.